What happens when the wolf you've loved your entire life looks you in the eye and tells you you're not enough? For Alara Marin, life had always been a study in invisibility. An Omega in the Shadowcrest pack, she'd learned early to keep her head down, her voice soft, her presence forgettable. The daughter of Beta advisors, she should have held some status, some respect. But the lavender and morning dew scent that marked her as Omega overrode bloodline, overrode achievement, overrode everything. In a world where power meant survival, she was born powerless. But when the future Alpha publicly rejected their mate bond in front of the entire pack, severing the connection that should have been sacred, everything changed. And what happens next? No one was prepared for. Not the pack that cast her out. Not the parents who turned their backs. And certainly not the ancient guardians who'd been searching for her across 1,000 years. The harvest moon hung bloated and orange over the ceremonial grounds. Alara stood at the edge of the gathering, as always, watching pack members mill about in their finest clothes. The air thrummed with excitement, thick with the mingled scents of hundreds of wolves, pine and musk, earth and smoke, the sharp tang of dominance from the alphas clustered near the raised platform. Tonight, Darius Thornval would ascend. Tonight, the son of Alpha Thornval would take his oath, claim his title, and step into power. Tonight, Alara's heart would break. She'd known for 3 months. The mate bond had snapped into place on her 20th birthday, a golden thread of connection that sang through her blood every time Darius came near. She'd felt his wolf recognize hers, felt the pull between them strong enough to make her knees weak. For 3 months, she'd waited for him to acknowledge it, to claim her, to make public what fate had decided in private. For 3 months, he'd looked through her as though she were glass. "You're standing in the Omega section, girl." The voice came from behind her, sharp, female, laced with cinnamon and iron. Alara turned to find Vivian Ashford, daughter of the pack's second alpha, beautiful and cruel in equal measure. Her dark hair fell in perfect waves, her amber eyes bright with malice. "Oh, wait. That's exactly where you belong, isn't it?" Alara lowered her gaze, her wolf whimpering inside. "I meant no disrespect." "You're breathing. For an Omega, that's disrespectful enough." Vivian's laugh was crystalline, cutting. Several nearby wolves turned to watch, scenting entertainment. "Though I suppose after tonight, we won't have to tolerate you much longer." The words hit like claws. Alara's pulse jumped, her hands trembling. "What do you mean?" "Oh, sweet little Alara." Vivian leaned close, her breath hot against Alara's ear. "Did you really think he'd choose you? Did you really think a future Alpha would saddle himself with Omega weakness?" She pulled back, her smile vicious. "Darius has other plans." Before Alara could respond, drums began to beat. The crowd fell silent, turning toward the platform. Alpha Marcus Thornval stood at its center, his presence massive, his scent, forest and embers, ozone and steel, a wall of dominance that made every wolf in attendance lower their eyes. Beside him stood Darius, and Alara's world tilted. He was beautiful. 23 years old, built like violence given form, his dark hair catching moonlight. The scent of him, the same forest and embers as his father, but sharper, younger, mixed with steel and ambition, called to something deep in Alara's chest. The mate bond pulled taut, golden and aching. Their eyes met across the distance. For one heartbeat, Alara saw recognition, saw the bond reflected in his gaze. Then his expression hardened into stone. "Wolves of Shadowcrest," Alpha Marcus's voice carried across the grounds. "Tonight, we witness the continuation of our line. Tonight, My son takes his oath and claims his birthright." He placed a hand on Darius's shoulder. "But an alpha is nothing without his mate. Without the bond that strengthens him, completes him, ensures the pack's future." Ilara's heart hammered. This was it. This was the moment. Despite Vivian's words, despite 3 months of silence, the mate bond didn't lie. Darius would have to acknowledge. "Therefore," Alpha Marcus continued, "it is my honor to announce the union between my son, Darius Thornval, and Vivian Ashford, daughter of our second. Together, they will lead Shadowcrest into a new era of strength." The world stopped. Ilara couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The words didn't make sense, couldn't make sense, because the mate bond was singing in her blood, because fate itself had chosen them, because— No. The word fell from her lips, barely a whisper, but in the shocked silence following the announcement, it carried. Every head turned. Darius's eyes found hers, and this time there was no recognition, only cold calculation. "Did someone speak?" Alpha Marcus's voice dropped to a growl. Ilara's legs shook, but her wolf rose inside her, desperate and wounded. She stepped forward. "The bond," she managed. "He's my mate. The moon goddess chose." Silence. Darius's command cracked like a whip. He descended from the platform, moving through the crowd, wolves parting before him. The scent of his power rolled ahead. Forest fire now, consuming, absolute. He stopped 3 feet away, towering over her. "You dare interrupt my ascension?" "I dare speak the truth." Ilara's voice trembled, but she held his gaze. "You know what we are to each other. I've felt you feel it. 3 months, Darius. 3 months I've waited. For what?" His lip curled. "For me to claim an Omega, to bind myself to weakness?" He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a cruel whisper meant only for her. "You actually thought I'd choose you over her? Over power? Over alliance? Over everything that matters?" The mate bond between them pulsed, golden and alive, impossible to deny. "I know you feel it," Ilara said softly. "I feel nothing." Darius straightened, his voice rising to address the pack. "This Omega speaks of bonds that don't exist. She invents fantasy to raise herself above her station." He turned back to Ilara, his eyes arctic. "I, Darius Thornval, future Alpha of Shadowcrest, hereby reject you, Ilara Marin, as my mate. I sever the bond between us. I cast you from my consideration, now and forever." The pain hit like lightning. Ilara gasped, her hands flying to her chest, as the golden thread between them didn't just break, it shattered, exploded. Every fragment turned to fire in her blood, burning through her veins, her bones, her very soul. She collapsed to her knees, unable to even scream, the agony too vast for sound. Through the haze of pain she heard gasps, murmurs, because the bond had been real. They could all see it now, the severed ends of it glowing around her like dying embers, proof that fate had spoken. Proof that Darius had rejected fate itself. "Impossible," someone whispered. "He actually— Get her out of my sight." Darius's voice was ice. "Guards, remove her from Packlands! Immediately!" Strong hands gripped Ilara's arms, hauling her upright. She couldn't fight, couldn't resist, the pain of the severed bond still tearing through her. She caught glimpses, Vivian's triumphant smile, the pack's shocked faces, her parents standing frozen among the betas, her mother's hand over her mouth, her father's eyes carefully blank. "Please," Ilara choked out, looking at them. "Mother, Father, please." Her mother turned away. Her father's expression never changed. The guards dragged her toward the pack's border, toward the wilderness beyond, toward the winter storm that had been threatening all day. The first snowflakes were already falling, fat and heavy, as they shoved her across the boundary line. "The Alpha has decreed exile," one guard said, not unkindly. "You're no longer pack, no longer protected. If you return, you'll be killed as a rogue." They left her there, standing in the snow, still wearing the thin dress she'd chosen for the ceremony. The temperature was dropping fast. The storm was building, and she was alone. Completely, utterly alone. Ilara walked because she didn't know what else to do. Her wolf was silent inside her, too broken from the rejection to even whimper. The snow fell harder, the wind picked up, and the forest grew dark around her. She had no destination, no plan, no hope, just the animal instinct to keep moving. Her feet went numb first, then her hands. The thin fabric of her dress might as well have been paper against the cold. She stumbled over roots she couldn't see, fell twice, forced herself back up. The bond break pain was fading to a dull, constant ache, but that almost made it worse. At least the agony had been feeling something. Now there was just nothing. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time lost meaning in the white darkness. Ilara's thoughts fragmented, scattered like the snow. She thought of her childhood, of her parents' careful distance, of the way her mother had flinched whenever Ilara's wolf had tried to surface. She thought of Darius's cold eyes, Vivienne's cruel smile, the pack's shocked faces. Much she thought, "I'm going to die out here." The realization came with strange calm. No panic, no fear, just acceptance. An Omega alone in winter, cast out and broken. There was only ever going to be one ending to this story. The barn appeared like a ghost through the snow. Ancient, half-collapsed, its roof caved in on one side. But 3 walls still stood, and there was hay inside, and it was shelter. Ilara crawled through the broken door and collapsed into the corner that seemed most protected from the wind. This is it, she thought. This is where it ends. Her eyes drifted closed. The cold was almost comfortable now, like sinking into water. Her heartbeat slowed. Somewhere far away, her wolf stirred one final time, a whisper of consciousness. Not yet, it seemed to say. Not yet. But Ilara was so tired. Sleep claimed her like mercy. Warmth. That was the first thing Ilara became aware of. Warmth surrounding her, pressing against her from all sides. And breathing. Deep, rhythmic, animal breathing that echoed in the darkness. Her eyes cracked open, and found herself surrounded by wolves. Massive wolves. Dire wolves. Each one easily twice the size of any pack alpha she'd ever seen, their fur ranging from silver to black to smoke gray. They'd arranged themselves around her in a protective circle, their bodies blocking the wind, their combined heat keeping her alive. Ilara's breath caught. She should have been terrified, should have been screaming. But her broken wolf stirred inside her, and instead of fear, she felt recognition. She counted them in the dim light filtering through the barn's broken walls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 massive wolves, their eyes gleaming in the darkness, all watching her with an intelligence that went far beyond animal. The largest one, a silver wolf with eyes like molten gold, rose to its feet. It moved with impossible grace for something so huge, its shoulder easily reaching Ilara's chest height. It stepped closer, and the scent of aged oak and winter snow, pine, and coming storms washed over her. Power. Ancient. Vast, utterly controlled power. The wolf lowered its massive head, its eyes level with hers, and spoke directly into her mind. "We've been waiting for you." Ilara's world tilted again. Wolves could communicate telepathically with pack members, yes, but not like this. Not with this clarity, this intimacy, and certainly not strangers, not— "You're not Shadowcrest," she thought back, her mental voice trembling. No. The silver wolf's presence in her mind was warm, steady, like roots of an ancient tree. "We are the Unchained, the moon goddess's chosen guardians, and we have searched across centuries for the one the prophecy spoke of." "I don't understand." The wolf's eyes held hers. "You will. But first, you must survive. First, you must heal. And then, little one, you must become who you were always meant to be." Another wolf moved closer, a female with fur the color of midnight. She nosed at Alara's hand gently and sent a pulse of soothing warmth through the touch. "Rest," the silver wolf commanded. "You are safe now. We will not let you fall." And despite everything, the rejection, the exile, the impossibility of the situation, Alara believed him. Her eyes drifted closed again, but this time, sleep came without the promise of death. This time, and she slept surrounded by guardians. This time, she slept like she was finally home. When Alara woke again, sunlight streamed through the barn's broken roof. The storm had passed, leaving the world outside blanketed in pristine white. And the wolves, all 10 of them, were still there, watching over her with patient, ancient eyes. The silver wolf shifted, not into a normal human form, but into something that made Alara's breath catch. He was tall, powerfully built, with silver hair that fell past his shoulders and those same molten gold eyes. Scars traced across his bare chest, not healed clean like most werewolf injuries, but raised and permanent, marking him as having survived things that should have killed him. He was older than Darius by at least a decade, and he wore his age like armor. "My name is Kieran Stormholt," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "Commander of the Unchained," he gestured to the other wolves. "We have much to discuss." Alara struggled to sit up, her body aching, her dress still damp and torn. "I don't understand any of this." "Then let me tell you a story." Kieran settled onto the ground across from her, moving with a warrior's grace. "Thousands of years ago, when the moon goddess first blessed our kind, she saw that great power would rise among wolves. Power that could heal or destroy, unite or divide. She foresaw a bloodline, females born with the ability to command, to feel the bonds between all wolves, to strengthen or sever connections at will." He paused, his eyes intense. "She called them matriarchs, queens of wolves, and she decreed that every 1,000 years, one would be born to restore balance when darkness threatened to consume our kind." Alara shook her head. "That's just a story, a legend." "Is it?" Kieran's smile was sad. "What if I told you that 20 years ago a prophecy was spoken, that it said, 'When the moon bleeds silver and the bonds break false, the matriarch will rise. She will be born of those who fear her, bound by those who should have loved her, and broken by those who should have treasured her. She will come when hope is lost, when winter claims her, when death reaches for her throat. And she will rise with guardians unchained, with power unbound, and she will remake the wolf world entire." The words resonated in Alara's chest, in her very bones. "My parents," she whispered. Kieran nodded slowly. "Beta advisors with access to ancient texts. They found the prophecy. They realized what you were." His expression darkened. "And they were terrified." One of the other wolves shifted, a man with dark skin and kind eyes, built like a mountain. "I'm Ronan," he said gently. "May I?" At Ilara's confused nod, he moved closer, placing his palm against her forehead. Power pulsed through the touch, not aggressive, but searching, Diagnostic. Ronan's eyes widened. Goddess above, he breathed. The binding, it's masterwork. They wove it when she was an infant, layer upon layer, suppressing her wolf, her power, even her scent. They made her appear Omega when she's... He looked at Kieran. Commander, she's not just matriarch. She's the strongest one I've ever felt. Elara pulled back, her head spinning. No, that's not. I can't. Your parents bound your power because they feared it, Kieran said quietly. They rendered you Omega to keep you safe, to keep you hidden. But bindings like that, he paused, they can only be broken one way. How? Through trauma, through pain so intense it shatters magical working. Kieran's eyes held hers. Through the severing of a mate bond. The barn fell silent. Elara's hands trembled. You're saying, Darius rejecting me broke the binding, Kieran confirmed. Even now, your true power is waking. Can't you feel it? Your wolf stirring? The way your senses have sharpened? And it was true. Elara could hear the heartbeats of every man and wolf in the barn, could smell the individual scent signatures of each guardian, pine and mountain air, smoke and summer rain, iron and honor, could feel a presence inside her that had been silent her whole life, suddenly, finally, beginning to wake. Hello? A voice whispered in her mind, not Kieran's voice, deeper, feminine, ancient. Hello, Elara thought back, tears streaming down her face. I've been waiting so long to talk to you, her wolf said, to show you what we are. A female guardian with red hair stepped forward. I'm Lyra, and if you're willing, we can help you with your first true shift. She smiled. Fair warning, it's going to be intense. Elara looked at Kieran. If this is real, if I'm what you say, why does it matter? The pack still cast me out. I'm still alone. You're not alone. Kieran's voice was firm. The 10 of us have guarded your bloodline for generations. We are sworn to protect, to serve, to ensure the matriarch's rise. You have us. Now and always. The other guardians nodded, their expressions solemn. And as for Shadow Crest, Kieran's smile turned sharp. They have no idea what they've unleashed. They thought they were casting out an Omega. They have no concept that they've freed the one wolf who could bring every pack in the continent to their knees. Elara's wolf surged inside her, no longer quiet, no longer suppressed. Show them, it growled. Show them what they rejected. Elara stood on shaking legs. Outside, the sun was fully risen, turning the snow to diamond dust. She walked to the barn door, the guardians following, and stepped out into the cold. But this time, the cold didn't touch her. This time, power burned in her blood. Tell me what to do, she said. Kieran moved to her side. Listen to your wolf. Let her guide you. This isn't like a normal shift. You're not becoming a wolf. You're becoming yourself. Elara closed her eyes and reached for the presence inside her. Ready? Her wolf asked. Ready. The shift began, but nothing in Elara's life had prepared her for this. Pack wolves shifted in seconds, bones breaking and reforming, painful and fast. This was different. This was transformation. Her bones didn't break. They flowed, lengthening and reshaping with liquid grace. Her spine extended, her limbs reformed, and there was no pain. Only power, rushing through every cell, rewriting her from the inside out. Fur emerged, not the brown or gray of common wolves, but pure silver, each hair catching sunlight and throwing it back like starlight. Her body grew and grew and grew until she towered over the guardians, until she was larger than Kieran in his wolf form, larger than any alpha, larger than myth. Energy erupted from her in a visible wave, sending snow flying in all directions, making the very air shimmer. And then it was done. Ilara stood on 4 legs, her new form steady and strong. She could feel everything, every heartbeat in the forest, every breath of wind, every whisper of connection between the guardians. The world was brighter, sharper, more alive than she'd ever imagined. She looked down at her paws, massive, silver, each one larger than a man's head, and at the fur that gleamed like moonlight given form. "Look up," her wolf whispered. Ilara raised her head and caught her reflection in a sheet of ice nearby. Her eyes glowed. Not amber, not gold, but pure liquid silver, bright enough to see in daylight. They were supernatural, otherworldly, the eyes of something far beyond mere wolf. The power inside her demanded release. Ilara threw back her head and howled. The sound shook the forest. Snow fell from trees. Birds erupted from branches. And in the distance, she heard wolves from a dozen different territories answer, their voices confused and awed, responding to a call of dominance so absolute they couldn't help but acknowledge it. When the echo faded, Ilara turned to find all 10 guardians on their knees, even in their human forms, heads bowed. "The matriarch," Kieran said, his voice thick with emotion. "She has risen." And Ilara, looking at her massive silver paws, at the guardians who'd waited centuries for her, at the power that sang through her very bones, finally understood. She wasn't an Omega. She had never been an Omega. She was something the wolf world hadn't seen in 1,000 years. And she was done being afraid. The days that followed transformed Ilara's entire understanding of existence. The Guardians had established a camp deeper in the wilderness, a clearing surrounded by ancient pines, with a central fire and sleeping areas and caves warmed by geothermal springs. It was rough, remote, and utterly safe, and it became her new home. Lyra taught her the intricacies of shifting, how to hold the in-between state, neither fully human nor fully wolf, how to shift just her claws, just her eyes, just her senses. "Control is everything," Lyra explained, her own shift demonstrating. One moment human, the next a rust-colored wolf built for speed and cunning. "Power without control destroys everything it touches." Ronan helped her understand her empathic abilities. "You can feel pack bonds," he said, sitting across from her at the fire. "Not just your own, all of them. Every connection between wolves. You'll sense it like a thread of light." He gestured to the guardians around them. "Try with us. We're not bonded as pack traditionally defines it, but we're connected through our oath. Can you see it?" Ilara closed her eyes, extending her senses the way he'd taught her. And there, yes, threads of silver light connecting each guardian to the others, to Kieran at their center, and now radiating from her like sun rays, threads connecting her to all of them. "I see it," she breathed. "Now try to strengthen one," Ronan said. "Pick any thread and push power into it." Ilara chose the thread connecting her to Lyra. She gathered her power. It came so easily now, like breathing, and let it flow down the connection. Lyra gasped, her eyes flying open. "I feel, goddess, I feel stronger, like I could run for days. Not like I could." She shifted instinctively, her wolf form larger, faster, her coat brighter. Ronan grinned. "And that's just the beginning. In battle, you could strengthen an entire army's bonds, make them faster, stronger, unified in a way no alpha ever could." But the training wasn't all power and control. The Guardians taught her other things too. How to track, how to fight, how to lead. Theron, a Guardian built like a blade, all lean muscle and sharp edges, sparred with her in human form. "You're too hesitant," he said, dodging her strike easily. You were raised to be small, to take up no space. But you're a queen now. Own the ground you stand on. He struck, and Alara barely blocked, her arms jarring from the impact. Again, Theron commanded. They went until Alara's muscles screamed, until her movements became instinct rather than thought. And slowly, she began to understand. Being matriarch wasn't just about power. It was about presence, about certainty, about the bone-deep knowledge that she had the right to exist, to command, to rule. Kaida, the midnight-furred female guardian, taught her about pack politics and history in the evenings. You need to understand the landscape you'll be stepping into, she said, her voice serious. There are 7 major packs in this region. Shadowcrest is one of the largest, but Ironmaw to the north is even bigger. Bloodstone to the south is known for brutality. Each has their own laws, their own traditions, their own ambitions. Why does that matter? Alara asked. I'm not planning to interact with them. Kaida's smile was knowing. Aren't you? Word is already spreading, Alara. Wolves across 3 territories heard your howl. They're whispering about a silver wolf, larger than any alpha, with eyes that glow like moonlight. Scouts are searching. Soon they'll find us. Let them, Kieran said, approaching the fire. He'd been on a perimeter check, his silver hair tied back, his expression calm. Let them come and see what their rejection created. He sat beside Alara, close enough that she could feel his warmth. Over the weeks, something had shifted between them. It wasn't the forced pull of a fated mate bond that had died with Darius's rejection. But this was choice. Respect that had deepened into trust. Trust that had deepened into something warmer. How are you feeling? Kieran asked quietly. Alara considered. Stronger. More myself than I've ever been. She paused. But also scared. What if I'm not ready? What if I fail? Then you fail surrounded by wolves who will catch you. Kieran's hand found hers, his touch warm and solid. You're not alone in this, Alara. You never have to be alone again. Their eyes met, and Alara saw everything she needed to see. This man, this guardian who'd searched for her across years, who'd knelt in the snow and called her matriarch, who'd trained her and protected her and believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. He was hers. Not because fate decreed it, but because they chose it. The bond that formed between them wasn't gold, like mate bonds were supposed to be. It was silver, bright and chosen and perfect. Kieran's breath caught. You feel that? I do. Alara smiled. Is this allowed? Can a matriarch can do whatever she damn well pleases, Kieran said, his voice rough, including choosing her own mate, if that's what you want. It is. The kiss was inevitable, gentle at first, then deeper, full of promise and power and the certainty of choice. When they pulled apart, the silver bond between them blazed bright enough for every guardian to see. Lyra whooped. Ronan applauded. Theron rolled his eyes but smiled, and Alara laughed, really laughed, for the first time since the rejection. Days turned to weeks. Spring began to whisper at winter's edges, snow melting to reveal new growth. Alara's training intensified. She learned to command multiple wolves at once, using her matriarch voice, a tone of absolute authority that bypassed conscious thought and spoke directly to wolf nature. She learned to heal, pushing power into injured guardians and watching wounds close, fractures mend. She learned to be a queen. And then, on a morning when the air tasted of coming rain, everything changed. Kaida burst into camp, her human form streaked with mud and blood. Scouts, she gasped. From Shadowcrest. They found us. They saw Alara training, saw her shift. Her eyes were wild. They're reporting back to Darius. He's mobilizing the pack. They're coming. Alara's wolf rose inside her, no longer frightened. Now it was eager. Good, it growled. Let them come. Kieran was already moving, organizing the guardians with military precision. How many? The scout said at least 20 warriors, maybe more. Kaida caught her breath. Darius is leading them himself, and Vivian is at his side. Something cold settled in Alara's chest. Not fear. Certainty. This was the moment. The confrontation she'd known was coming since the day Kieran had told her what she was. Shadowcrest was coming to deal with what they thought was a rogue Omega who'd somehow gained power. They had no idea what was waiting for them. How long? Alara asked, her voice steady. They'll be here by nightfall, Kaida said. Alara looked at Kieran, at the guardians gathering around them, their eyes fierce and loyal, at the clearing that had become home, at the life she'd built from the ashes of her death. Then we prepare, she said, and we show them exactly what they rejected. Kieran's smile was proud and sharp. As you command, my matriarch. And Alara smiled back, feeling the power coil inside her like a storm ready to break. Let them come. Let them see. Let them kneel. The Shadowcrest war party arrived as the sun touched the horizon, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. Alara heard them long before they appeared. 23 wolves moving through the forest, their scents carrying ahead. Forest and embers and steel. Darius, cinnamon and iron. Vivian. And others. Warriors she'd once known, once lived beside. The guardians stood arrayed around the clearing's edge, still in human form, relaxed, but ready. Alara stood at the center, wearing simple clothes that Lyra had provided, her silver hair, her true color, no longer disguised, falling loose around her shoulders. Kieran stood to her right, close enough to offer support, far enough to make clear she needed none. The Shadowcrest wolves burst into the clearing and stopped, their formation precise, their aggression palpable. Darius shifted first, his transformation quick and brutal. He stood in human form, naked and unashamed, for his alpha dominance rolling off him in waves. But it broke against Alara like water against stone. His eyes widened fractionally. You. Hello, Darius. Alara's voice was calm. Did you miss me? Vivienne shifted next, her beauty unmarred, her expression vicious. The Omega survived. How disappointing. Her gaze raked over the guardians, and found herself some rogues to play with. How pathetic. Rogues? Ronan's laugh was deep and amused. Is that what you think we are? You're on our territory, Darius snarled. Unmated males surrounding a female. I should kill you all for your territory, Alara interrupted, and her voice carried power now, just a whisper of command. Every Shadowcrest wolf flinched. You exiled me, Darius, cast me out to die. This land is beyond your borders. You have no authority here. I have authority everywhere. Darius took a step forward, his dominance flaring. You're an Omega. You're nothing. And whatever trick you're using to mask yourself, whatever illusion these rogues have taught you, I am no Omega. Alara let her power slip free, just a fraction. The air shimmered. Pressure built. I never was. Vivian laughed, the sound brittle. Please. We all felt your weakness. We all smelled what my parents wanted you to smell, Alara said quietly. What they bound me to keep me safe from wolves like you. She looked past Darius, past Vivienne, to the warriors arrayed behind them. Some looked uncertain now, their noses working, scenting something that didn't match their memories. But bonds break, Alara continued, especially when severed by pain, by rejection. Her eyes locked on Darius. You did that, in case you've forgotten. You broke our mate bond, shattered the binding my parents wove. She smiled, and it was not kind. Thank you for that, by the way. You freed me. This is insane, Vivian spat. Darius, she's delusional. Let me handle. She lunged. It was fast. Alpha speed, enhanced by rage and training. Vivian shifted mid-leap, her wolf form sleek and vicious, claws extended toward Alara's throat. Alara didn't even shift. She simply caught Vivian by the throat, one hand, and held her suspended in the air. The female wolf thrashed, snarling, her claws raking uselessly at Alara's arm. But Alara's skin didn't break, didn't even mark. I said, Alara spoke softly, her grip tightening fractionally. I am no Omega. She released her power. The shift was instantaneous. One moment human, the next, her massive silver wolf form towered over the clearing, twice the size of any wolf present, her eyes blazing like captured starlight. She held Vivian, tiny now in comparison, in jaws that could have crushed her skull with barely any pressure. But Alara simply tossed her aside, sending the female wolf tumbling across the clearing to land in a whimpering heap. The Shadow Crest warriors took an involuntary step back, and the Guardians shifted. Not into normal wolves, into their true forms, dire wolves, each one massive and ancient, their combined presence a wall of power that made the very air heavy. They moved to flank Alara, 10 legendary warriors surrounding their queen, their eyes gleaming with barely restrained violence. Darius stared, his face pale. What are you? Show him, Kieran's voice filled her mind. Warm and proud. Alara shifted back to human form, her transformation graceful and controlled. She stood before Darius in the same simple clothes, her silver hair lifting in a wind that smelled of ozone and coming storms. When the moon bleeds silver and the bonds break false, she quoted softly, the matriarch will rise. Her eyes held his, silver and absolute. I am what the prophecy spoke of, Darius. I am what my parents feared. I am what you rejected. She stepped closer, and he actually flinched. I am the matriarch, queen of wolves, and you made a mistake. What mistake? His voice cracked. You didn't just reject a mate. Alara's smile was sad. You rejected your queen. You cast out the one wolf who could have made your pack unstoppable. You chose political alliance over destiny itself. She gestured to the Guardians, and you freed me to find those who would choose me back. The silver bond between her and Kieran pulsed, visible to every wolf present. Darius's eyes widened. You bonded with him? With a rogue? Kieran Stormholt is no rogue. Alara's voice rang with pride. He is commander of the Unchained, the Moon Goddess's chosen guardians. He is my mate by choice, not fate. And he is worth 1,000 political alliances. Kieran shifted to human form, moving to stand beside Alara, his hand finding hers. The message was clear. United. Chosen. Unbreakable. The Shadowcrest wolves were backing away now, their aggression replaced by fear. They could feel it. The weight of power, the certainty of dominance. This wasn't a fight they could win. Mercy. The word came from behind Darius. One of the warriors, a wolf Alara vaguely remembered, or named Marcus, dropped to his knees, head bowed. Matriarch, please. We didn't know. We just followed orders. Other wolves began to kneel, one by one, submitting not to Darius, but to her. Only Darius and Vivian remained standing, and even Vivian looked ready to bolt. This is my territory now, Alara said, her voice carrying to every wolf present. These lands beyond Shadowcrest's borders, they answer to me. Any wolf who wishes to leave Darius's pack and join mine may do so. Any wolf who wishes to stay loyal to Shadowcrest may leave now, peacefully, and never return here. She looked at Darius, at the wolf who'd rejected her, who'd cast her out to die, who'd chosen power over love. But make no mistake, Alara continued, her eyes blazing. If Shadowcrest threatens me or mine again, I will not be merciful. I will bring the full weight of my power down on your pack, and I will teach you exactly what it means to reject a matriarch. Darius opened his mouth, closed it. For the first time in his life, he had no words. Go, Alara commanded, and this time she let her matriarch voice ring through the word. Absolute authority that bypassed thought and struck directly at wolf nature. Tell your father what you found. Tell him the matriarch has risen, and tell him to stay on his side of the border. The Shadowcrest wolves fled. Some shifted and ran immediately. Others walked backward, unable to tear their eyes from Alara, before finally turning and disappearing into the trees. Only Vivian remained, on her knees now, her head bowed. You, Alara said quietly. You who mocked me, who called me pathetic, who smiled when I was cast out. Vivienne trembled. Please, I strip you of your rank, Alara declared. You are no longer Second's daughter in my eyes. You are no longer worthy of the title you claimed. She stepped closer. But I will not kill you, because I am not you. I am not cruel for cruelty's sake. She gestured to the forest. Run. Return to Shadowcrest and live with the knowledge that you attacked a matriarch and survived only because she chose mercy. Let that haunt you. Vivian ran, her shift clumsy with fear. When the last Shadowcrest wolf had vanished, silence filled the clearing. Then Ronan started laughing. Deep, booming, joyous laughter that made the trees shake. The other guardians joined in, their relief and pride and fierce happiness filling the air. Kieran pulled Alara into his arms, his embrace warm and solid. "Oh, you were magnificent," he murmured against her hair. "We were magnificent," Alara corrected, looking at the guardians, her family. All of us. Lyra shifted back to human form, grinning. Did you see their faces when we shifted? I thought that one warrior was going to pass out. The best part was Darius, Theron said, his smile sharp. Realizing he'd rejected literal royalty. That's going to sting for the rest of his life. Good, Kaida said simply. Alara looked around the clearing, at these wolves who'd waited lifetimes for her, who'd trained her and protected her and chosen her. At Kieran, who'd given her a bond built on respect and choice rather than fate's whim. At the territory she'd claimed, the power she'd accepted, the future she'd seized. She was no longer the girl who'd been cast out to die. She was the matriarch, and this was only the beginning. 3 months later, Alara stood on a cliff overlooking what had become her territory. Spring had fully arrived, turning the forest lush and green. Below, in the valley, construction was underway. Not a traditional pack compound, but something new. A place where wolves could come regardless of their born rank, where omegas would be valued, where power meant responsibility rather than tyranny. The Unchained had grown. Wolves from 3 different packs had come seeking sanctuary, seeking the matriarch who'd been prophesied. Alara had accepted them all, testing their hearts rather than their dominance, building something that had never existed before. A true pack, based on choice and respect. Kieran's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "What are you thinking?" "That I never imagined this," Alara said honestly. 6 months ago, I thought I'd die alone in that barn. Now you're a queen with a kingdom," Kieran finished. "How does it feel?" Alara leaned back against him, feeling the solid warmth of their chosen bond, the silver thread that connected them growing stronger every day. "It feels right. It feels like home." A howl echoed in the distance, one of her new pack members, calling the evening assembly. Soon there would be a feast, a celebration of the spring equinox, her people gathering, free and happy and safe. But Ilara's eyes were drawn to the horizon, to where the moon was beginning to rise. Not a normal moon, a blood moon, red and ominous and full of old power. Kieran stiffened behind her. That's not scheduled. The lunar calendar. I know. Ilara's wolf stirred, uneasy. Something's coming. In her mind, she heard a whisper. Not from Kieran, not from her wolf, but from something older. From the moon goddess herself. You have risen, my daughter. You have claimed your power. But the prophecy spoke of one who would come when darkness threatened. That darkness is waking now. Ancient. Hungry. And it will test everything you've become. Ilara's hands tightened on the cliff's edge. Kieran, gather the guardians. All of them. What is it? She turned to face him, her silver eyes blazing. The reason I was born. The reason the matriarch rises every 1,000 years. She looked back at the blood moon. There's an ancient evil waking, and we're going to need everyone we have to stop it. Kieran's expression hardened into warrior focus. Then we'll stop it. What, together? Together, Ilara agreed. As they walked back toward the valley, toward her pack, toward the family she'd built from nothing, Ilara felt the weight of destiny settle onto her shoulders. But this time, she didn't flinch beneath it. She was no longer the frightened Omega cast out to die. She was the matriarch, surrounded by guardians, bonded to a mate who chose her, leading wolves who believed in her. Whatever darkness was coming, she would face it. And she would win. And so Ilara Marin's journey began in rejection and ended in revolution. Cast out as an Omega, she rose as a matriarch, proving that sometimes our greatest pain becomes our greatest power, that the bonds we choose matter more than the ones fate hands us, and that true strength isn't about dominance, but about standing up when the world tries to keep you down. Well, what did you think of Ilara's transformation? Have you ever felt underestimated, only to prove everyone wrong? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your own stories of rising from the ashes. If you enjoyed this tale of werewolf royalty, rejected mates, and found family, make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button. Ring the notification bell so you never miss when we drop the next chapter, because Ilara's story is far from over. The blood moon rises, ancient darkness stirs, and the matriarch will need all her power to protect what she's built. Thank you for listening to this chapter of Ilara's journey. We'll see you in the next one, where the real battle begins. Until then, remember, you are never just what others see. You are what you choose to become.